Hi, this is Jay with JLT, and today we got our 2020 Rubicon strapped down to the dyno jet, and we're going to show you how to properly dyno test a product. Today we're going to slap on S&B's Cold Air Intake for your Jeep JL. Our dyno test today, just like every dyno test we do, is going to be hood up with these fans. These fans are powerful, but they're just barely powerful enough to keep your coolant temperatures at a normal operating temperature while the vehicle is sitting still on the dyno. While we do this run, we're probably going to be anywhere from 50 to 100 miles an hour, and there's no way that these fans can simulate that airflow across the front of a vehicle. So the best way to do any dyno test is hood up. Hood down, you're going to create extremely high underhood temperatures that are not realistic to what you would see at those speeds. Before we get started, I'm going to show you another tip for dyno testing products. Using HP tuners is one of the easiest ways that you can data log and monitor everything that your engine's doing. Every late model car has what's called adaptive learning, and in that adaptive learning, what it does is it adapts to your driving style. It adapts to how you use the gas pedal. It adapts to the airflow that's coming in, the temperature, the amount, all that stuff. So if you were to just dyno your vehicle now and then swap a part without resetting the adaptive learning in the car, it's going to not give you true results. You really need to, what they call reset all adaptives. So you turn the key on, you go in here, reset all adaptives, reset all adaptives complete. So basically that turns all the adaptive off on the engine in the computer, and basically it's going to be much faster for that computer to read the air that's coming in, the air that's going out, the way that everything's running, and then basically give you a good baseline. During all dyno testing, we use HP tuners to data log the engine parameters. We want to watch and see what the coolant temperatures are, what the timing advance is. Is it pulling spark? Is it adding fuel? The biggest thing that's a concern when you're testing something like an air intake, making sure that you run each run at the same coolant temperature. The difference between running at 180 degrees coolant temp and 220 degrees coolant temp can be anywhere from 5 to 30 horsepower. So to give an apples to apples comparison, you really need to monitor this stuff. You don't just run to the shop and throw it on the dyno and swap parts out. We've made 3 runs in stock form, and here's what we're looking for. See the coolant temperature up here, 198? We're making each run at 194. So what we're doing is in between each run, we're letting it get down to 194, and then we're immediately putting it in drive, going through the gears, putting it in 4th gear, and making a run. And we're going to keep doing that until the power starts to fall off. That way we know the adaptive learning has done everything it needs to do for the new airflow. This one is with the stock box, and we're going to do the same thing with the S&B. All right, let's go over that real quick, and this is a great way to show you what I mean by adaptive learning. So we cleared out the adaptive learning. We've been driving the vehicle. We want to make sure that we're starting from scratch. The computer is going to take a few runs to figure that out and get to an even point in its tables, its air, fuel, and timing tables, and then it's going to level out, and then we're going to start to lose horsepower. So we're going to go along, and I'm going to run it until we start to lose power. Every run made at 194 degrees coolant temp, so it's the same every time. First run, second run, run it again. You can see it's starting to clean out. You can see that green line, it's starting to smooth out. We're making more power. Run number 3, even better. Lost a little bit at the top, but it's clean and more power all throughout. And then number 4, boom, the car just has had too much. It's pulling timing, it's adding fuel, but the coolant temp was done at the same time. So basically the adaptive on the number 3 run is going to be the most power this vehicle is going to make with the stock box. Okay, the S&B intake is installed. Very nice piece, everything fit great. We're going to go ahead and clear the adaptive, make some more runs. Alright, now let's look at the results from the runs that were just the S&B. First run, 216, it's cold. It's been cooling down for a little bit. Let's get some heat in it, run it again. I don't know what these little anomalies are at the top. You know, there's little glitches whether you hit the button too fast or whatever, but basically it's still looking good. Let's run it again. Basically, again, what I did was I ran it, put it in neutral, watched coolant temps, let it come down to 194, run it again. Put it in neutral, let it come down to 194, run it again. So we're starting to get some consistency. Again, another 211, 211, 211, 211, almost 212s those last couple. So I'm happy with that. We know that we've got some good averages of what this Jeep is going to make with the S&B intake. Now let's go ahead and weed these out. Let's go through and take out the anomalies here. 15, it's got a goofy dip in it. And let's remove that. The red 13, as much as I'd like to use that 216 horsepower as a comparison, it just doesn't seem right because it was cold. Let's take that out. Now I think we can agree that these two runs are very similar to each other. And then let's go get the best stock box run. Look at that. So peak numbers, you know, you're looking at 4 to 5, even 6 horsepower, 4 or 5 horsepower. But look at this, between $5,000 and $6,000, we're looking at 5 to 10 horsepower and torque. So this is the proper way. And also let me show you this, the air fuels. You got to read air fuels. Air fuels, these are all very similar when you're talking about you know, a 13.5 to a 13.7 to a 13.5.6. These are all very similar numbers, easily, you know, good things to compare to. If you do a test and you see one where it's very lean or very rich and it's got the horsepower is different, you got to pay attention to that. You don't want people, you know, claiming numbers that don't make any sense. So you can see here, this is the proper way to test this kit. This kit on this Jeep is making peak numbers of 4 and 5 and 6 horsepower, but making 5 to 10 to 11 horsepower and foot-pounds of torque between 5 and 6,000 RPMs. Now go ahead and add a tune to that, add a cap back, do some exhaust work, and everything's just going to flow even better. So don't go by what you see online. You can't you can't go to a dyno shop and you can't do it backwards. You can't have an intake on and then put the stock intake back on and do a dyno test and expect to get good results. You've got to data log it. You've got to make sure that you're running everything apples to apples. Coolant temperature, everything's the same. So there you go. Take it for what it's worth.